Hello, everyone. Welcome to Remote Lawyer. Today, we are back with a new video on how to draft a legal notice. Now, typically, when one talks about a legal notice, they talk about the style of writing, the words or the language used, etc. However, according to me, a legal notice involves many more steps before you actually come to the stage of writing. In this video, we are going to discuss the various steps that one should take before they start drafting a legal notice. What is a legal notice? Firstly, a legal notice is sent to the opposite party, calling attention to breach of any obligation or any act or omission committed by them. Now, it is the first step before you initiate a legal action. Typically, you send a legal notice to someone who has violated any law or who has wronged you, and you inform them that you have done so and so things wrong. And if you do not redress them, then we will be constrained to take legal action against you. Now, sending a legal notice is not compulsory. You can initiate legal action even without sending a legal notice. However, it is preferable to send a legal notice. Now, the first step in a legal notice is to read the facts. Now, when a client approaches you and tells you that they want a legal notice to be drafted, they would typically tell you why they require it, what is the purpose of the same. They would also give you the associated documents along with the fact situation. Now, these documents could be emails, previous notices, agreements, etc. Now, you should read through all these associated documents, these emails, notices, agreements, and you should understand why the notice is being sent. What is the core cause of issue? What is the violation that has happened here? What are the various issues and inconveniences or damages that can occur to your client on account of this violation? So that would give you an aim and objective of the notice that you are drafting. Now, the second thing is to identify the issue. Now, identify the core issue and then break this issue into smaller subparts. For example, if you are sending a notice for wrongful termination. Now, firstly, read through the facts and all the associated documents and understand what is the purpose behind. Now, firstly, you would need to tell the employer that the termination is wrong. Ask your client whether they want a reinstatement, whether they want a compensation, and then read accordingly. Now, there could be various allegations that you may raise here. Maybe the reason for termination here is not in accordance with law or their employment agreement. Maybe the procedure of termination was illegal. Maybe the law was not followed while terminating the service. So you need to read through these and you need to identify the various smaller issues that arise from the bigger issue of wrongful termination. Now, step 3 is reading the law. Now, step 2 and step 3 need to be done in conjunction. So you need to read the law and at the same time, you need to understand the issue together. Now, start with reading the statute. So let us take the prior example itself, wrongful termination. Now, the first step you do is you identify the status of the employee, whether he's a workman, whether he's a non-workman, which law applies to him, what state is he working in, so that you can identify the relevant Shops and Establishments Act. Go through the rules, regulations, notifications, etc. Then, then you will identify the core issue and whether the core issue is violating the law and how is it violating the law. Then read up on the case laws that strengthen the stand you are taking. So once you've understood the law and the relation of it to the core issue of wrongful termination, you would know what are the case laws that would support your stand. So then you research on the case laws and come up with the case laws that would strengthen the stand that you are taking. Now, structure, prepare a structure of the issues that you are going to raise. Now, mention each subpoint and the case laws and legal provisions you are going to use to support the same. So, you have the core issue of wrongful termination. Now mention each subpoint. So for example, reason for wrongful termination. Mention the case laws you're going to use to support this subpoint. What are the various points you're going to raise? How are they grounded in the fact situation that you have? And prepare a basic structure which you can use to draft your legal notice. Now, while you are doing this, you can also prepare a counter to each of your points, because this would help you when a reply to your notice arrives. So you would already know that the opposite party may raise these specific counters to my points. So you would be prepared when the reply of your notice arrives. Now, the fifth and the last step is to write. The problem is most people confuse this last step with the first step. So after you have prepared your background information, after you have identified your issue, you have done your research, then you sit down to draft or write a legal notice. Now, when you begin, start with giving a brief background. So for example, if it's it's a rent recovery notice. Now mention what date was the lease agreement or the rent agreement entered into. Talk about what were the rent payment terms. So for example, if the rent was to be paid within 7 working days. So you say that this particular clause of the rent agreement, it says that the rent was to be paid within 7 working days. Now, tell the opposite party, and preferably in pointers, because no one has the time to read big long paragraphs. So your pointers should not be more than 2 to 3 sentences, and draft your legal notice in such a way that those 2-3 sentences convey your point aptly. You can also mention case laws and legal provisions to support your allegations. But again, a legal notice should not run into pages and pages. So choose 1 or 2 case laws which strongly support your stand, and those you can mention. Now, also talk about how the opposite party's behavior or the alleged violation has caused damage or inconvenience to your client. This is important because this is what is telling the opposite party that, okay, you violated a law and I suffered an inconvenience or a damage for it. Now you need to redress this violation. Otherwise, I would be constrained to take legal action. Now, inform the opposite party that if they are not able to redress the grievances, we will be constrained to take legal action. Now, this is exactly the main aim of sending the notice. So before initiating legal action, if you send a legal notice and the other person accedes to your demands, then there would be an amicable settlement. If despite sending the legal notice, no redressal is done, then you may initiate legal action. And the legal notice would also help you in court proceedings, where you can say that we had brought the attention of the opposite party to the violation, and as they did not take any step, we were constrained to initiate legal action. Also give a timeline to redress the grievances. So you can tell them that within 7 days, within 15 days, depending upon the violation, and if you do not redress my grievances, then I would be forced to go to the courts. Now, the language used should be professional and it should be crisp. Do not meander, do not start talking about the theoretical concepts, do not write eons about the law. You just need to focus yourself to the situation at hand and apply the law and the research, the fact situation, etc., to the situation at hand. So you need to apply the legal provision to the fact situation given, and you need to support this entire thing with any contractual documentation that you have, any previous communication, and the case laws, and at the same time, the statutory laws. So you need to basically mix all of these up, and you need to draft a strong and forceful legal notice. So if you start writing pages after pages, no one is going to read it. So make it as crisp as possible. And at the same time, it should be effective enough that the opposite party understands what you are trying to say and it actually serves your purpose. Thank you. I hope you liked today's video. If you have any doubts or queries regarding drafting a legal notice, you can message me on LinkedIn. Our website is given here. In case you want, you can also reach out to us on WhatsApp. On the website, you would get our WhatsApp number. So thank you and have a nice day.